Good morning and welcome to another episode of For Dragonflies and Me. And I'm Jean Roman, your host. Thanks so much for joining me. I super appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here and talking today about hummingbirds. So, if you're an avid bird watcher like I am and always have been, um, this time of year, we are anticipating the arrival of the hummingbirds, and there's all kinds of stuff out there right now on the internet showing their migratory patterns and whatnot, and how to care for their bird feeders and when to put them out. So I have always loved watching the birds. I have taught my boys all about bird watching, and we even have a couple books where each time we see a new species, we find it in our bird book, and then we jot down the date and where we were if it's not home, and how we saw that bird. And so this has been a tradition. My oldest is 29, so I'd say we've been doing this for the last 24, 25 years. So definitely something that that I love to do. I love seeing the birds coming in the spring. When the robins first come in, it's like, oh, the robins are here. And we got snow yesterday. Um, this week, when this video airs, is going to be on a Friday. And so I think Wednesday this week, we had like big snowflakes, and we had snow last week. I'm here in Michigan, Metro Detroit area, and we had 10 beautiful days. And if you follow me on my social media, you would have seen us put up our new privacy fence, and we built our new greenhouse, and we have been working in our patio and the raised bed garden. So we got a lot of stuff done during that week, and then we've been sporadically trying to get things done on other warm days. I am not working the cold weather kind of girl, but um, today we're going to talk about when to get your bird feeders out for the hummingbirds. Oh, and I saw an eastern bluebird yesterday. I was so excited. I like the bluebirds are here now. But anyways, let's get into this episode of, I guess this is a gardening 101, kind of not, but birds belong in the garden. So we're gonna go with it. But as always, I've created a beautiful PowerPoint. We're going to go over some details. I'm going to read to you of what I've written, as well as I'm going to talk more about that and share other content with you. So let's share this screen. Here we are, share, and make it a slideshow. And there we go. Welcome to For Dragonflies and Me, tips and trick for the home and garden. So birds usually belong in the garden. Welcome, I'm Jean Roman, and today's topic is Gardening 101. Get ready for hummingbird season. When to start setting up your bird feeders. Well, again, if you followed me for any amount of time, you know I'm an avid birder. I love to watch the birds, and I've always included my kids with that. We have a couple bird books where we date the first sightings of any new species we've seen, which I just mentioned. So be sure, I'm going to include at my blog, in the description below, my blog on feeding the birds. I wrote this actually in December or November of last year, because when our little feathered friends, the ones that stay back and don't migrate to warmer weather, they definitely need food during those winter months. So, but it's still a great article, whether or not, no matter what time of year it is. And right now, as the weather starts to warm up and the flowers start to bloom, we are not the only ones getting excited. Another exciting part about spring is the arrival of the hummingbirds, and it's just around the corner. These tiny and colorful birds are a delight to watch as they flit around our yards, sipping nectar from flowers and feeders. And if you want to attract hummingbirds to your yard, now is the time to start preparing. Setting up a hummingbird feeder is a great way to provide a source of food for these beautiful creatures. And generally, what we have over here is the ruby-throated hummingbirds. And generally, if you're in the Midwest, that's what you're going to see. That's the only hummingbird variety that I've seen, species that I've seen. So, but I know there are other beautiful ones. If you live in another part of the country or the world, let me know what bluebird, or I'm sorry, hummingbird you are seeing, what is native to your area. So right now we're thinking about setting up our hummingbird bird feeders, and it is a great way to provide a source of food for these beautiful creatures and enjoy their presence throughout the season. But when is the best time to start setting up your feeder. In today's episode, we'll just talk about the best practices for getting ready for hummingbird season and share some tips on how to attract these amazing little wonders to your yard. There's the ruby-throated. That one to the left is the female, and the center and to the right are the males. The males have the red throat and the females do not. So now is the time to get ready to welcome the hummingbirds and create a beautiful and vibrant habitat in your backyard. One of the favorite things that I love to do is sit on our deck or on the front porch or even previously in my office and just watch out the window as these little birds like just flit about. And I don't know if you've ever seen them where they dodge back and forth. They kind of do this crazy U pattern, and you can see two of them. And I've never really looked that up, to be honest with you. I'm gonna have to now. But do you know what it is? If you do, leave me a comment in the comments below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on it. But first and foremost, what is a hummingbird feeder? How is it so different? If you've never done this before, you may be thinking, well, don't I just get a bird feeder, put some seed in it? Well, no. Hummingbirds do not eat seeds, they drink nectar. And so in the bird feeder or hummingbird feeder that you can see here, you can see there's little flowers along the base, and it's filled with basically sugar water. Syrup is what you're making. And I do have a recipe for that that is going to have my blog at fordragonfliesandme.com, which is where I'm going to direct you over after this episode. You'll be able to click a link to get that recipe for an easy hummingbird nectar recipe if you don't want to purchase it. A lot of times the ones you purchase have red food coloring in them. Some people are like, oh, that's terrible for them. Other people, it's a personal choice. I mean, however you feel comfortable. I have used both. I have made my own, which is what I generally do just to save on some money. But in the long run, I like to use organic sugar. So is it cheaper? But I know I feel better about it myself. But a hummingbird feeder is a device that provides a source of food for hummingbirds. And it's typically made of plastic or glass. I have both. And it has a reservoir that's filled with sugar water solution or a syrup that mimics the nectar found in flowers. That's for real. And so this feeder also has a series of small ports or holes that the hummingbirds use to access the nectar. If you've ever watched them, they have this long little tongue. And so those little flowers where they feed, it's again, to mimic what their natural habitat in a flower garden would offer. And so they sit there and they stick their little tongue in those holes and they drink the nectar. And it's amazing how much they eat in a day. And this is because they have a super crazy high metabolism where they need to consume large amounts of nectar every day to fuel their energetic lifestyle. By setting up a feeder in your yard or off your porch or in your gardens, you'll be providing a valuable source of nutrition for these little guys and increase their chances of survival. They are just so little. Oh, and there's another busy guy eating out of the nectar. And as you can see here, this one, it has the red food coloring in it. And this is a really great photo. They're such curious, inquisitive little birds. And they can be a little temperamental too. They will dodge at you if they're funny. But what are the benefits? It's like, well, why should I feed the hummingbirds? What are the benefits of this? Why should I spend more money, buy more feeders and whatnot? Well, there's so many benefits to setting up a hummingbird feeder in your yard. First and foremost, it's a great way to attract these beautiful little birds and enjoy their presence throughout the season. Hummingbirds are fascinating creatures that are known for their agility, speed, and beauty. Watching them as they flit around your yard, sipping nectar from their feeder, is a real joy. And in addition to the aesthetic benefits, a hummingbird feeder is also a great way to help support the local ecosystem. Hummingbirds are important pollinators that help to fertilize flowers and other plants. So by providing them with a source of food, you'll be helping to ensure the health and vitality of your garden because they are pollinating, just like the bees and the butterflies. So another benefit of setting up a hummingbird feeder is that it's a great educational tool for your kids. Kids love animals, and hummingbirds are no exception. By setting up a feeder in your yard, excuse me, friends, you'll be giving your kids the opportunity to learn about these amazing birds and observe them up close. Because honestly, friends, I've had a hummingbird like this close to my face, like a foot away. And you can actually edge up if you have a chair, and you can edge up right there. I've actually had hummingbird feeders that, in front, like a big front window, like a big picture window. And then, there's the wood frames or whatever. And then I've had like a plant hanger, and I put that on there. So literally between a piece of glass and myself, like not even a foot, and they will come and they'll look at you. And it's just like this, oh my gosh, like a communion with nature. And it's just, they're just so amazing when you think it's like they migrate across the country to another part of the world. And and then they come back, and then they nest, and they're babies, and you'll see them sitting in a tree, and they'll be coming in and out, so there's a nest somewhere. I have literally never been able to find a hummingbird nest. They're so teeny tiny. But this is something great to share with your kids or your grandkids or your nieces, your nephews, or if you babysit, whatever. So it's a great way to foster a love of nature and instill a sense of responsibility for the environment, teaching kids how to care for these little guys and other birds as well. It really is a rewarding feeling. Oh, it does, isn't he beautiful? Just look at the detail. Look at those, it looks like a shield. I just love them. So when should you do this? When is the best time to set up your hummingbird feeder? Well, timing is everything when it comes to setting up a hummingbird feeder. If you want to attract these birds to your yard, you need to start early. The best time to set up your feeders depends on where you live, of course, and the climate in your area. In general, you should aim to have your feeder up and running before the first hummingbirds arrive in your area. And this can vary depending on, again, on your location, but in most cases, you'll want your feeder up by early spring. So I'm in Michigan, and so I just got my hummingbird feeders out, and I'll be taking pictures and showing on my Instagram and Facebook page. And so I am going to hopefully, like I said, I had snow this week, and I'm hoping they're not here because, oh my gosh, I can't imagine the little guys being so cold. But I will probably set them out next week just so when they come, because the flowers, this again, we just moved to this house, and there's no spring flowers. I'm having a lot of flower sedum. There's a hydrangea bush. There's a couple sweet autumn clematis, which if you've been following me, know I'm how excited am I about that. There's a trumpet vine, which the hummingbirds are going to love. There's a lilac bush. There is, definitely some daylilies, and I'm still waiting on a few other things. There's echinacea and probably some yellow. Uh, Black-eyed Susan. So we'll see what else comes up. But as of right now, I have not seen any spring flowering bulbs or other flowers coming up in my garden. So we'll see. But the exact timing will depend again on the migratory patterns of hummingbirds in your area. And in North America, for example, the first arrivals of hummingbirds can be seen as early as February in the southern states, which is why, again, moving to Georgia, we are so excited. While in the northern states, they may arrive, up until late May. To ensure that you're ready for hummingbird season, it's a good idea to do some research on their migratory patterns for your area. And this will give you a better idea of when you should start setting up your feeders. Ooh, that's a baby. That is just a little baby, and he's so cute. So choosing the right location for your hummingbird feeder is also really important consideration. So the location of your hummingbird feeder is just as important as timing. If you want to attract these little birds to your yard, you need to choose a location that's visible and accessible to these birds. The ideal location for your feeder is somewhere that's protected from the wind and rain and is in a spot that's easily visible from a distance. Believe me, they'll find it though. And that's why a lot of people use the red food coloring, because it really does attract them. And most feeders, the little ring that you can see this little guy sitting on in the base, it's generally red. So for some reason, scientists have determined that hummingbirds like red and they're attracted to it. If you have bee balm in your garden or any other red flowers, they do really go there, but they'll go to any flower. I mean, they love my petunia hanging baskets as well. So you should also choose a location that's away from other bird feeders Hummingbirds are territorial creatures and may be deterred if they feel that their space is being encroached, which is why oftentimes I have special spots off of my deck railings for them. So, to ensure that your feeder is easily accessible to hummingbirds, it's a good idea to place it near flowers or other plants that these birds are known to frequent. This will increase your chances of attracting hummingbirds to your feeder and create a beautiful and vibrant habitat in your yard. So, again, setting them my porch and deck railings have always had flower beds around them, so that it always made sense. So a few tips for maintaining your hummingbird feeder. Setting up a hummingbird feeder is just the first step in attracting these birds to your yard. To ensure that your feeder is effective and safe for the birds, you'll need to maintain it properly. And here are some tips for maintaining those hummingbird feeders. So by following these tips, you can ensure that your hummingbird feeder is effective and safe for the birds. With a little bit of effort, you can create an inviting habitat for hummingbirds in your yard and enjoy their presence throughout the season. So, a few tips. Clean your feeder regularly, and it can be quickly become contaminated with bacteria and mold if it's not cleaned regularly. And to keep your feeder clean, it's a good idea to wash it with hot soapy water every few days. I do it once a week, every other week. You can see they don't even fin. I mean, depending on the size of it, you're going to fill your bird feeder about every 2 weeks. So, you can clean it up to every couple days or up to 2 weeks. You should also rinse it thoroughly and allow it to dry completely before refilling it. And use fresh nectar. Hummingbirds are attracted to fresh nectar, so it's important to change the solution in your feeder every few days to a week. If the solution becomes cloudy or discolored, definitely ditch it. It's a sign that it's time to change it. Avoid using red dye. Again, like I said, this is a personal choice. Some people add red dye to their hummingbird feeders to make the nectar more attractive to the birds. However, this is unnecessary and can actually be harmful to the birds. Red dye has been linked to health problems in hummingbirds, so it's best to avoid using it altogether if you can. Keep ants and bees away. Ants and bees are attracted to the sweet nectar in the hummingbird feeders and can quickly become a nuisance. To keep them away, you can use an ant moats or bee guards that are designed to prevent these pests from accessing your nectar. I really have not had this issue, generally because of where my hummingbird feeders are. But I do keep a wasp, one of those clear tube cylindrical containers with a yellow to catch wasp. I don't want those around my bird feeders, but I have so many other flowers that the bees generally are happy with the lavender and whatnot in my gardens. So, how to attract hummingbirds to your feeder. Now that you know when and where to set up your feeder and how to maintain it, it's time. You may be wondering how to actually attract these birds to your yard. And so here's a few tips to attract them to have success. And by doing this, you're creating an inviting habitat for hummingbirds in your yard, and you get to enjoy their presence throughout the season. So with a little bit of effort, you'll be able to attract these beautiful birds and create a vibrant and thriving ecosystem in your backyard. So first and foremost, plant flowers, if at all possible. Hummingbirds are attracted to brightly colored tubular flowers such as bee balm, trumpet vine, foxglove, any type of flower that has kind of like like a tube. You'll create a natural food source that's attractive to these birds. Provide perches. Hummingbirds need a place to rest in between feeding. So by providing perches near your feeder, you'll give these birds a place to rest and observe their surroundings. Like I said, every now and then, if you see your hummingbird come to your feeder, if you watch where it goes, and I have binoculars even to watch the birds, you'll see generally they'll find a dead branch with no leaves in the midst of other branches and teeny tiny thin branches, and you'll see them go back, rest before nesting, because then they go back to their nest to feed their babies. But if it's in between, you'll see them flit over to their branch, come back, feed, flit, go back. And then sometimes even when they have, generally the hummingbird feeders will have that little ring, so it's a perch for them, and they'll sit there, and you'll know when they become really accustomed to you being outside with them, because they will not, when they first find their feeder and they first find you, they will barely land on it. They'll stay in flight, eating and jetting back, eating, jetting back, because they're nervous at what you might do. But when after 3, 4, 5 times of you sitting there patiently, not moving, being still, and them coming back and forth to the feeder, they'll end up perching there. And throughout the season, they'll become accustomed and they'll know you're the person that is giving them their delicious nectar. So also, an important thing to do is having a water source, a clean water source. Hummingbirds need water just like they need nectar and like other birds. So, by providing a source of water like a bird bath or a fountain in your yard near their feeders, preferably in a flower bed, you'll create a natural habitat that's attractive to these birds. Be patient. It can take some time for hummingbirds to discover your feeder. Be patient and keep your feeder clean and well stocked with fresh nectar. With a little bit of persistence and patience, you'll eventually attract these beautiful birds to your yard. So, setting up a hummingbird feeder is a great way to attract these beautiful birds to your yard and enjoy their presence throughout the season. By choosing the right location, maintaining your feeder properly, and providing a source of food and water, you'll create an inviting habitat that's attractive to hummingbirds. With a little bit of patience and persistence, you'll be able to attract these amazing little birds to your yard and create a beautiful and vibrant ecosystem that's a joy to behold. So, get ready for hummingbird season. Enjoy the beauty and wonder these little creatures provide. So, thank you so much for being here today. And that was a very brief tutorial on how to attract and feed your hummingbirds and get them to your area. So, if you find value in this video, I would be so grateful if you smash the subscribe button and smash the like button, and so you don't miss an episode. We have, I'm generally doing cooking classes, other gardening classes. I also host my podcast. Episodes here as well. So lots of great content, friends, and be sure to leave me some feedback. I love to hear from you. And to see more blogs like this, visit me on my blog at fordragonfliesandbee.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, again, be sure to visit me at my podcast, my blog, and of course, my social media platforms for additional daily inspiration for the home and garden. And going to stop sharing now. And as I always love to say, in wrapping up my videos and my blogs, be sure to eat fresh, shop local, and have a happy day. It's spring and it's almost hummingbird season. Take care, friends.